Here are my notes from chapter 2. I downloaded the book through my Kindle, and one of the things that's interesting about doing that is it will mention anything that has been highlighted by several different people, and it does make it a little easier to find the key points in the chapter, although I found a lot of times those are the more of the generic points to the chapter. But I found chapter 2 to be interesting, and I have some notes that I've come across, and hopefully this supplements what you've came across as well. Again, the idea with this is that, it's a graduate course, and you should read a chapter, and I don't want to give you my lecture on the chapter before you read it. That way you can form your own opinions. But a few of the things that stood out to me, number one, was the idea to make time to be creative. And in our day-to-day life, we have so much going on. It's from one task to the next. And I'm sure most of you you're busy, you're working, you're taking classes, and everything else you have in your life. And it can be difficult to actually just stop and clear your mind. And according to the author in Mindful Leadership, you need to have your mind cleared of all those distractions to be creative. And you can't just say, let's be creative and go be creative. It's something that you need to just have all those distractions out of your mind to be able to do. So something we should be working on. Again, this is obvious as well, the idea that there needs to be an equilibrium between work and home life. And a good example of this is I had a graduate student when I was in Emporia State who was a graduate assistant for the football team. And I talked to him, several times about what he wanted to do with his life. Did he want to go into coaching? Did he want to go pursue other interests? And by the end of it, he had completely ruled out being a college football coach. For him, that balance between work and home life just wasn't going to work. Most college coaches put in 50, 60, 70, 80 hours, are on the road all the time. Imagine the coaches at Alabama or Auburn, how much time is spent recruiting, how much time is spent at the office. I'm a big University of Tennessee fan, and they were talking about Jeremy Pruitt, since he's taken over at Tennessee, the amount of time he's put in. And when you can do that for a while, but eventually you're going to get burnt out. And if you don't have that balance, your stress is going to get higher. You're not going to be as creative. You're going to be so focused on all these different tasks that you really can't be mindful, or it becomes more challenging to. Building off that is the idea to reduce our stress and to just step back and find ways to reduce our stress. And if we don't do that, we can't be mindful, because stress is going to really hamper our creativity, hamper our effectiveness. And it's important to be able to deal with stress. It goes back to that work-home balance life and finding ways to reduce your level of stress, which ties into the idea of meditation, something we're working on in this class. And it builds on the idea of just being overtaxed and having too much to do on a daily basis. It seems like for whatever reason, we have so much going on in our lives that we try to do as much as we possibly can on a day-to-day basis, instead of just trying to slow down a little bit. I was at the gym I was at, they had, I think it was that Real Housewives of Beverly Hills was on. And although I've never seen the show before, one of the wives was talking about how they have just so much going on in their life, they just don't have time for everything. And almost as this was a badge of honor, in reality, that's going to have a negative effect on us, especially if we're trying to be mindful. So we need to step back, realize what's important in our life, what we need to be successful, and try to reduce everything that's going on. Or at least take the time to clear our minds and focus on what's at hand. And according to Mindful Leadership, that will make us more successful, because we can focus on what's important at that one time. We won't be multitasking. We will be focused on that task. And when those distractions aren't there, we will have more energy to spend on these specific tasks. And the last thing I found interesting in the chapter was the idea that mindful leaders help other employees at all levels. And it goes back to the idea of compassion and being there to assist employees. When you think about this from a training and development perspective, we want our employees to be successful. We want to give them the skills to be successful. And mindful leaders are aware of this, and they want to see all employees become successful, and they want them to have the skills to be successful. She's mentioned it several times in the book so far, and even in the video that we watched, the idea that a lot of these leaders go to these different mindful leadership training sessions and then want to take their employees to them. And the idea is to bring everybody up to that level, to get everybody thinking using this mentality and almost changing the culture of a corporation. Again, I thought those were some of the key points from the chapter. I like how she's balancing her experiences with what she sees as mindful leadership.